Welcome to episode 2 of the hashtag LaidOffLife. And my name is Jennifer Crowfoot, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Jigna Vagella.
And Jigna, today we're going to be talking about why we can't all be Kramers in today's session, correct?
That's correct. You may have heard us talk about how we have such a great fond love affection for Seinfeld and how we bonded over it. So we tend to pull a lot of references from that show, and we decided to title today's session as "We Can't All Be Kramers," and you'll know why in just a moment.
Yeah, so just give you a quick on Kramer. This is a quick brief of things. If you don't know who he is, he's kind of this one of the characters. He's kind of obscure. You don't really know what he does for a job. He lives in this like kind of nice flat, like across from Jerry in the episodes, and you're not really sure what he does all day, and he's kind of randomly all over the place. So, and I kind of feel like that right now, that I'm randomly all over the place, making things to do while I have this time and trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And with that, so I have to tell you, this last weekend, I went out to a farm ranch kind of thing and got to help with vaccinating cows and goats and things. What do you think about that?
That's interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So I think it's so interesting. I think you're going to want to see this video. So I'm going to show you a video I have real quick here of what happened in that day.
All right, so make sure you can hear me. So there's a lot of noise. I'm in Palmer, Texas today, and part of the LaidOffLife is you get to come out and hang out with people who do some cool things. I got a friend of mine who's got a farm out here, and this is Tasha the horse. So Tasha and I are having an apple. Well, she's having the apple. And so we're out here today. We're going to, wrangle goats and cows and vaccinate them. I'm so excited. I've never wrangled a goat before, but today will be the day. So I can add that to my resume in this LaidOffLife. So stay tuned for more.
Contestant number 1 on Get Your Bovine Shot. She's a beaut. Look at that. All right. Come here, kitty. Oh, yeah, no, I guess you don't say kitty. What do you say to a cow? In the chute. Okay. No tag. Number 1.
Look at all those goats. We're going to come in here and we're going to give the goats some shots and some oral medicine. There's a lot of goats. Check this out. Check out all those goats. You see all those goats?
A lot of bull, so you know.
Yeah. That's neat. I had no idea the area had that sort of opportunity. So I'm going to have to look at some more options there and get out in the sun and do a little bit more volunteering myself.
Well, here's the interesting thing about it. When I was little, I think I shared this with you. When people used to ask me what I want to be when I grow up, I would say a cowgirl. And I'm not so sure that I would want to do that today, because I'll tell you what, that is some hard work there. Like there's guys and gals up on top of the chute kicking the cows and get in and sometimes they go backwards in and like, okay, they got to turn them around so they can get to the head to get the shots. And then you got to watch the big ones who get angry and they like buck their way out and the bull comes running out and we all jump back, or when the cow doesn't want to go back out to the pasture and everyone's screaming, don't turn your back on the cow, because the cow like is staring you down like you just did something to me. I'm not sure I really liked it. So it was really an interesting experience, I'll say that. And it was so hot that day. We started at 6:30. We ended around 12:30, vaccinated like 85 cows and over 120 goats. I came home and I was going to take like an hour nap then to get some stuff done. I think I slept for 2.5 hours, and still then when I woke up, I was just like, I felt like I had just run a marathon. So that's how crazy it was. But it was pretty intense day.
I guess you won't have to go to Orange Theory this time, at least for that day, right?
That's right. I had an adventure.
I did. I had an adventure as well. And I actually took a road trip, a COVID be safe road trip with my son and another friend, and we had a really great time. Visited a friend in Colorado, and
Nice.
she's in the medical field, so I knew I would be safe. And we planned it so her nephew was there, so my son had a friend as well. So we had a great time. We went to the sand dunes, and then we also went to white water rafting. So that was a lot of fun. And I took a little bit of video. There's a video of me biting the dust and then getting splashed by the water, and just not really excelling at the athletic part of the whole deal. But nonetheless, we had a really great time. And here's a video of that.
You're telling me you're not going to be a whitewater rafting guide in your next job?
Probably not, because I can't swim. Not yet.
Remember when Kramer, he created a business case, this high-end business firm, and he was called out for having no business acumen. Yeah, thankfully he wasn't actually working for the company, and he had this knack. We talked about falling money into his life all the time. And he somehow, like I said, he was living in this really nice flat, and just all these things. We can't all be that lucky, can we? So
yeah, I think what happened was he had a Jackie Childs, the lawyer, who would always help him sue as many companies as he possibly could, and just fall into money.
yes.
Yeah, you're right. We definitely can't be that lucky. The focus for today's podcast is going to be on honing your skills. So, Jennifer, you had a great insight on a book that you had read, and want to hear some of that information.
Back up to a long, long time ago when I was in grad school. I worked for the athletic department at Texas A&M and their career development for student athletes. And one of the things that I worked on there was there was a career course that they were teaching from the Career Center, and they used a book called What Color is Your Parachute? And then I also helped take that after I left grad school and got a job. I was volunteering on the advisory board for the student, it was called the Student or Alumni Board for the Department of Communications at Texas A&M first, and we were looking at career development for communication majors. And so I remember things that we had done in this career class while I was in grad school. So I kind of took some of those same principles and took that book, What Color is Your Parachute? And we created a course for for undergrads thinking about how to get a job. But the thing about this book is it is for anybody, in your college or not in college. And in fact, they even have now a version for teenagers. And so the author is Richard Bowles. And the What Color is Your Parachute, he does like a new edition, I think, every year. So there is a 2020 edition. And it's basically, he calls it a practical manual for job hunters and career changers. So you can find that on Amazon or probably Barnes and Nobles, wherever you buy books. And we can put a link out there for people at the end of this to have that information. So, the great thing about this book, though, I think that was one of the most valuable things I learned from reading it, was that it provides it talks about how do you look at what your skills are and really understanding that first, because right now there's so many people searching for jobs, right? So why you're thinking about how do I stand out? What are the skills I bring that maybe others don't bring that I can really hone in and show other people? And how do I make those transferable? Because there's some skills, regardless of what industry you worked in, they can fit in any of those industries. Now, if you're a doctor, that's a very specific skill, right, to medicine there. But if there's something you did and maybe you worked in finance industry doing project management, you may be able to transfer those skills into even the healthcare industry into project management. It's just like understanding those transferable skills. And he really breaks it down and provides you some tools in there on how do I look at my skills and what I know, what are the things that I really also like to do. Because when you understand what you like to do and who you are and what your skills you're really good at, then you will be much happier in that next job, right? Too. So, and hone in your and making it a career too. It's really not just about getting a new job, but it's like whatever that career path is for you. So I think it's a really great book. I would recommend doing the exercises in it and kind of going through that transferable skill session. And so, yeah, I really enjoy it.
So I got a question for you. What you did this weekend at the bovine location, how do you think those skills could be transferable to your next position?
Oh yeah. So I don't think they're going to hire me to vaccinate anybody in my next position. But what some of the stuff, though, I think it would be, just teamwork. I think would be the first thing, because you certainly are out there working in a team, right? There's a risk factor when you've got a 800 or 1,200 pound animal that, even though it's confined in the squeeze machine, when its head touches the top of the railing, that can bump it and then it can come charging out, right? Everybody has to work in a team to make sure this is efficient, and you want to get them in and out. And so I think it's teamwork is one of those skills that I could talk about how that worked. Also processing, or process flow. So one of the things, my friend whose ranch that they own there, she was a project manager actually. So she and I were actually talking about what's the right process flow. And she had forewarned me. She said, there's a lot of type A personalities out here and everyone's going to tell you what to do. And I said, well, I clearly, in this situation, I'm not the expert, so I'm going to do what people ask me to do. But I kept asking the question and clarifying, what's the process? Because I wanted to make sure I wasn't in somebody's way. And I also wanted to make sure everybody knew what their role was. So I think by me asking some questions too, it helped her and her husband and some other people realize, oh, we really need to be clear on who's doing what. And I think that was part of another transferable skill. I'm really good at kind of seeing overall processes and helping people put those in place. So I was able to bring some skills to the table, even though I knew nothing about vaccinating cows or goats.
You brought up a really good point around the type A personalities. There's going to be a lot of those in your next career or any career path that you take, and just recognizing and realizing when to step back is going to be really important. We both are very strong in verbal communicators. So learning when to stop and sit back for a little bit might be very beneficial. And that's something I think I've learned in the past few years, specifically around some challenges, I've had personally or professionally. So I think that's something we can all learn from, and in just, learning to maybe not say what we need to say right at that time, writing it down, and then bringing it up when it's the right time to do so. So
I realized the only time I really wanted to speak up, and I think I hollered, was when I saw the 1,200 pound eyeing somebody, the cow, like looking and kind of eyeing him, like, I'm not sure I really like what you all just did to me. And she didn't want to go back out. So like we were all like, hey, hey, hey. And I was like yelling at you, like, turn around. Because I really didn't want to see someone run over by a 1,200 pound animal.
Yeah.
We'll certainly teach you.
Do you remember, I think it was in the 80s, 70s or 80s, where there's a danger robot. There's a TV show. What was it called?
Lost in Space.
Lost in Space. Yeah, that's what it kind of, that visual comes into my head when there's some sort of an important or dangerous task that needs to be addressed at.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a great book to go through, and you don't really necessarily get a color for your parachute. It's not one of those kind of analysis. It's just really understanding more about yourself and where you fit in a career and jobs, and how skills are transferable, and that path you take. The other thing I love that he talks about, which is how you do informational interviews. And I think that's really important too, because as job market changes or places change, is understanding, how do I see how somebody else took that path? Like if I think that's where I want to go or take that job, or I think I have skills that are transferable to that, is how do you ask people that that are maybe in that position? You're not going to ask them for a job, but you're going to ask them about, can I spend 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes with you to learn more about that position? Or is there somebody in your company that does that would maybe take 15, 20 minutes to just interview, just to discuss? And it's you interviewing them from an informational standpoint. You're not asking for a job, you're just going through a process. And he gives a lot of great questions and things to think about when you're asking somebody to understand what that job's about, and also understanding the company too, so that you get a sense of like, what are the environments you want to work in, and obviously environments are going to look really different probably for the next year or so, but I think it still gives you a sense of what's the connectedness and how people stay together or not stay together even during this time. So, it teaches you through that process too, and how to evaluate and get more information. And I think it's just it's a value to yourself. I think anybody who's looking for a job owes it to themselves to spend some time and just not fall into the same trap, especially if you were not happy in the last job or you felt like you could do more or you feel like this is a time to make a change. And so that you're not just kind of obscurely running around like Kramer doing different things. And although I would love to I always think about, I love when he gets that set. I don't remember what set it was, and he has his TV show, right? And he brings the guy with the bird from
Merv Griffin show.
Merv Griffin show. It's like one of my favorite episodes. And the guy is looking around, he's like, where's the camera? And Kramer's acting like he's just talking to the camera, right? And that's pretty
That was an awesome episode.
It is awesome.
The Johari window, I heard you talk a little bit about in the past as well.
Yeah. And I wrote a little article, it's on LinkedIn, about the sunset of employment. And I will share it here for you all to read too, about kind of understanding, because it's another tool to use to think about transferable skills. And it's an oldie but a goodie, I would say. I think it's like from 1955, I think. I don't remember exactly, don't quote me out here on the dates. But the two psychologists that created it were Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham. And it's basically, you go through, there's a series of words they give you to add verbs that describe or adjectives to people. And it's a way that you can ask somebody, hey, can you tell me, circle the top, I think it tells you 3 or something like that, but you could even ask people to do more, you see the top 6 of me, what do you see of me? And you don't look at what they circle. So if I was handing you the sheet, Jigna, you would kind of pick these words. And then I would go through and circle the words I think that in these categories that are about me. And then when I take the 2 sheets, I have 4 quadrants, and one is kind of what's open. So they're the words that you and I both checked off or matched. And then if there were ones that I checked off but you didn't check off, those would be kind of my hidden skills. I haven't really been displaying them to people. And then the ones that you checked off that I don't see are kind of what they call the blind spot. So they're things that you know about me, but I haven't really been aware about myself. And then there's an empty square, which we kind of just leave that empty. It's the unknown skills to be done. And I think the more people you do this with, and even if you don't want to use the word, you could do a modified version. It's ask people hey, think of when you think of me, what are the top 3 skills or 3 words that come to your mind or that I'm really good at, something like that. So you can start categorizing and understanding where people see you and how you see yourself. Because maybe if you're thinking you're really good at this and nobody says it about you, maybe that's the time to exit or find out how to get training in that. And if there are skills areas where somebody's you're really good at that, and you didn't see that about yourself, maybe that's another area to oh, how do I focus? What kind of jobs do people do with that skill? And then the things that we both agree, then that's really kind of your sweet spot, and how do you take those skills, and again, understanding where they're transferable into jobs, and really focus in there. So it's another easy and good tool to use.
That's a really great point. And we kind of went through something similar to that just recently when we were sort of creating this podcast, and you had we were speaking about just the planning and the design and the content and whatnot, and you kept saying to me, Jigna, you take care of the logo, you're great at design, and I didn't really see that in myself, and I would have never put that as one of my top skills. So thankfully, you had the confidence in me, which I didn't, say thanks for just pushing me in the right direction, because otherwise I wouldn't have. And you're so right. A lot of times your friends, your colleagues, your family members even see a side of you that maybe you don't want to see of yourself or are too afraid to explore. So, put yourself out there and ask. And the best starting point, I would say, is what Jennifer was saying, ask your friends and your colleagues and former colleagues, I guess, and your loved ones, top 3, best attributes about you, and maybe go from there, and then explore this Johari window. there's a great tool, the predictive index, that's widely used right now, and especially more recently than in last few decades. So that's one thing I'm seeing over and over again during the resume submission process. Even before you are interviewed, folks want to know sort of what personality type you are, and how you would fit into their team, and how you may or may not get along with your direct manager and the executive teams. So predictive index is a big tool, a pretty reputable tool. We've seen some other tools that are out there as well, but this one seems to be one that's widely used. And Indeed actually has tools to help you prep for these types of tests. So you might be required to take those types of tests. So why don't you go ahead, and why not go ahead and get some of those out of the way, understand what is needed and why they are asking you for these types of tests. And these are personality tests, right? They're behavioral tests. So there's no right or wrong. However, it's nice for the employer to vet you ahead of time, so they're not wasting your time, they're not wasting their time. And just know you may be amazing, an amazing worker. You may be putting in 150%, more so than anybody else. But if you're not a good fit for the team, then chances are it's not going to work out, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'd say it's like the plants, right? Some plants, when you buy them, say need this kind of soil or need to be in direct sunlight. Others need to be out of direct sunlight in different places, or how often they need to be watered. So while all the plants are great, it's just they need different things to thrive. And so finding out what you need to thrive in an environment and what they need you for thriving in an environment are important. And
looking for a job nowadays is a full-time job. And we do have another episode that we talk a little bit about that, working from 9 to 5 and how hard it is even when you're out of work. So we'll talk about that on another episode. However,
so we'll share some of those links and things we've talked about in this episode, so that you have that information. I will put them on our social media page, and once we get our website up, we'll put some of that stuff there too. We want to make sure you stay connected with us as well. So and tell us if there are other resources that you find are really helpful that can help other people too. I think it's great. So Jigna, what else?
Yeah, just be sure to stay connected. If you like what you hear, just like us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're there, and you can watch us on YouTube.
Yeah, be sure to subscribe so you don't
very
miss.
Much appreciate it. And then on our next episode, we are going to be. It's titled "Be Kind, Rewind." We are
showing our age.
The 90s, yes. So, Be Kind, Rewind is the title, where we focus on your best self and how to get there. So be sure to tune in. It was great chatting with you. Oh, yeah.
I almost forgot.
Our fortunes for the day.
Fortune. So before we say, be sure to tune in next time, let's find out our fortune. I went first last time. You go first this time.
So very loud. Okay. Let's see what it says. Oh, okay. Courage is grace under pressure. So I need to be courageous and going and doing artificial insemination on cows.
Ooh, I also got a courage one. This is like
you did it? Oh,
this is like a sign. Oh, but mine also broke. Like, did the cookie eat it? Where did it go? Oh, yeah, so that's not good. Okay, courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point.
Wow, that's
deep.
Long.
That is really deep. Yeah. Again, I'll say that courage is not one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point.
I'll think about that.
Yeah, so we'll leave you on that note. So, yeah.
All right, guys. See you guys later on the next episode, and be sure to follow us and share. There are probably 40 million people out there who need to hear some of this, hopefully.
Absolutely.
So please help us out.
And we want to hear your success stories if you get hired too.
Yeah, absolutely. Be sure to connect with us. And if you feel like you want to be on the show and you have a great story to tell, or just want to gab with us about some of your learnings, reach out to us. We're again on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So you should be able to find us. Until next time.
All right. Bye.